Hello everyone, this is going to be a review of the 4 candles you see on the top of this grouping here. The White Barn Candle Company Spring early release or possibly test scent line of candles for Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company. These were purchased at a test store. You can see we've got 3 collections here. If you watched the first video, I review the sort of retro beach collection in the middle there. The next video coming up will be the Fresh Market revamped line at the bottom, and right now we're going to focus on the White Barn collection within the spring-summer line, which, as you can see, focuses primarily on the florals. There are a few things thrown in there that I think really don't exactly fit. Green grass, spring don't exactly fit as a floral candle for me. I think they were a little more suited perhaps in sort of a different line entirely, but they are there. As you can see, these are sort of the gold lids that we've become accustomed to with the White Barn collection that they had for fall and holiday. If I'm getting sort of a little editorial here, I don't like the design of this. I think for fall, autumn and winter it worked. It's more the cozy classic labeling with the gold lids and the gold edging and the lettering and the very simple text on the label, with the sort of more cursive country style lettering, cursive for the candle White Barn logo and scented candle listing on the bottom of it, and that worked for the more cozy, a little bit more conceptual, high-end, sandalwood vanillas and cranberry woods, black pepper bergamot, mahogany teakwood. It made sense. But for this, I feel like they should have done a little bit of a revamp on this. They just seem a little bit kind of old-fashioned and kind of dated, actually. They seem, just a little, I don't know, Southern country home, but like grandma's house, and not necessarily in a good way. Not that, I have anything against grandma or sort of throwbacks to something like that, but to me, it just... Garden Freesia maybe, some of the really feminine florals work, but something like green grass, it just doesn't look... I like the labels of last year where it was more, it was your orchid petal, what was it, the apple blossom, I forget what it was called, I'm completely blanking on that, the apple blossom, you had eucalyptus mint in there, first bloom, spring, green grass. They had a really clean label, with light embossed lettering, very contemporary but classic without being tacky, and I just really enjoyed those. So it's a little bit of a disappointment with how these look, but as most people will tell you, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day what they look like. It matters what they, how they smell and how they burn. So I'll tell you first, before I do the reviews of these 3 here, because as you see there are 3 new scents and a returning, I'll tell you that this specific collection had 8 scents in it. In the test stores currently there will probably be more, but as of now it was 8 scents. They were what you see here: White Barn number 3, Renew and Refresh, Lily Pond, Garden Freesia, Green Grass, as well as returning favorites Spring, Lilac Blossoms, Honeysuckle, and Pineapple Orchid. Now something like Pineapple Orchid to me smells really bubblegummy sweet and didn't necessarily have to be in the floral line, but again it's got orchid in the name, so I suppose that makes sense. I love Honeysuckle, Lilac Blossoms is nice, Spring is a great candle, really great scents, and I'm happy that they're back, so we'll see what else is added to those, but right now it is the 8 that I've listed there. And let's dig in with reviews on the 4 we've got here. First up is Lily Pond. I like the idea of it. It sounds very watery. Not sure what lilies smell like or what a pond should smell like, but I assume when you hear pond, it's going to be a fresh, early spring, kind of a cool scent, maybe some water to it, kind of green. The image of this is sort of, I suppose it's like a veranda or a porch, maybe a gazebo or something. I'm not exactly sure, with something outdoors out in the distance there. The notes on this one are: the calming fragrance of a water garden is conjured up by light touches of water lilies and musk. So they're telling us more, again, sort of the conceptual side of things, where it's just a calming fragrance of a water garden, so it's supposed to evoke that feeling using notes of water lilies and musk. So I'm sure there's a lot more to it than just those 2 things, but that's all they're really giving us. And this is interesting. I don't love it, I don't hate it. It's not super intense. I could see it being calming. It's certainly floral, without being bright and intensely floral. To me, it actually, I guess the musk is, I'm getting sort of a soapy note to it. Not like a, Irish Spring Lever 2000 sort of soap, but more of like, if you go to, this is, I don't know if everyone can picture this, but just go with me here. Sort of like grandma's guest bathroom, in like maybe the 80s or 90s. I feel like many grandma guest bathrooms probably had this. It's sort of like a theme, like say it's maybe a seashell theme, and there's a soap dish with like the decorative guest soaps that you don't really use, and they're just the like the poured molds of small little soaps in the shapes of things like a seashell or a little, I don't know, starfish, a seahorse, something, or a little flower, just some small little, poured soap. And to me, this is exactly what that smells like. So it's got the floral, but it's very soapy. It smells like a soap that hasn't been used. Again, I don't dislike it, but it's definitely sort of what it says, a little bit of floral with musk, really nothing watery. I'm not sure if the name really fits it. I'm not sure exactly what water lilies smell like, though. It could be dead on. It's not really a must-have, but it's sort of an interesting mix. It's definitely more of a spring than summer, so I appreciate that, because I don't like when they just dive right into, a tropical Caribbean escape and with no, delineation between the seasons. So I'll certainly give this a shot, but I don't think it'll end up being a favorite. It's a little bit stuffy and soapy for me. Moving on to the next one, Garden Freesia. Be very careful, I don't want to knock it over. The image on this one is what looks to be like maybe a garden box, or like a planter box in a garden. There's a tree, sort of just like maybe mulch or something, with a bicycle laying there. So you're getting, that's the image they want to evoke with this one, because we kind of have to remember, with the White Barn, it seems to be they're generally going with the conceptual sense here, so just go with that. And the notes on this one are, the scent of freshly cut freesia blends flawlessly with violet petals and a touch of sandalwood. So a lot of people are going to be a little bit thrown by the touch of sandalwood, but I tend to enjoy sandalwood. I think that they use it fairly well in their candles when it's a note to round things out. And this is the more I smell it, the more I like this. This reminds me a little bit of Lilac Blossoms in the sense that it's really a true fragrance where there's not a ton of florals that are in this, like some of the other scents, the other floral scents. It really seems to be primarily freesia, and I suppose I'm getting some violets in there too. Definitely, the purple wax matches it perfectly, because I don't always get, some people get musical notes or scents with colors in their head, and they just sort of tie them that way. I don't always get that, but with this one I definitely do get the sort of purple smell, if you will, with this, like the light sort of lilac color. No lilacs, no lavender, nothing like that in here, but certainly the freesia, it's a little bit perfumey, a little bit sort of grandma-ish. Not that that's a bad thing. But it's a little bit sort of, a little down home. I don't know, when I smell it though, when I actually smell the wax, it's actually a little bit less intense than when I'm smelling it in the lid. So it might be really, really nice. I think the sandalwood kind of calms it down a little bit. It makes it a little bit more earthy without being musky, because I wouldn't want it to go in the direction of musky, because that would make it too powdery, I think. But it's pretty good. If you like something like Lilac Blossom, it's not as strong as Lilac Blossom, but it's got that sort of authenticity, a little bit of a throwback. And I can see why they call this garden, because it is a little bit more like you're walking through the garden outdoors. It's not just a floral perfume, which florals tend to go in that direction. So not necessarily a must-have, but it's nice. If you like freesia, then by all means, I think you'll love this. I think they have represented you well with that. And then one that I was pretty excited about, which I hadn't heard about but saw in the store, White Barn number 3, Renew and Refresh. So this is a sort of a cute thing that they're taking through all the seasons collections. In the fall, they started with White Barn number 1, which was, I believe, Nutmeg and Spice. And then White Barn number 2 was a barn covered in snow. and that was the Clove and something, I forget, but it's the Winter Cabin repackage. And with this, they're calling it Renew and Refresh, and it looks like a fresh painted white barn for spring. So that's really kind of fun that they're doing that. Now the notes on it are: refresh the scent and ambiance of your home with this blend of jasmine, fresh air, and a touch of mint. So a little floral, fresh air, which is always tricky to figure out because that can be sort of anything when they throw that as a note in a candle. And a touch of mint, which they tend to get a little heavy-handed on the mint, but with this one, I do enjoy it, but this is actually a repackage of a test scent that didn't go wide last year. It was a part of the Slacken & Co. Good Life candle collection, the original gold lid candle collection. Now, without diving too much into that, there were two collections. There was a fall and then a spring aromatherapy collection. The first one was Aromatherapy Home, then followed by Slacken & Co. Good Life. They were the original gold lid candle collections. You can actually see a full review of both of those collections as my very first video back in June, if you're interested in that one. They're some of my favorite lines or candles that they've come out with in recent years, so it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't. And this is just a complete repackage of a scent from that line, and I have it here just to show you. Back then it was called Refresh, so that sort of makes sense. Now back then they said crisp ocean air soothes the senses, and the notes they had on it back then were restore and soothe with pure ocean air and jasmine. And then on the label here, it also, I don't know if you can see that, it was melon, jasmine, and ocean air. And they're telling us now that it is jasmine, fresh air, and a touch of mint. Smelling them, it is absolutely the same scent. Has not been changed at all, which is fine. I like this one. Didn't love it, but I did like it. I didn't really get ocean air with that, so it makes sense that it's not ocean. It's, a barn in the middle of, Midwest or in the South, so no ocean air. But the weird thing when I first did the review on that candle was that I felt it was a little bit, there was something strange about it where usually when you think of refresh, renew, refresh, air, jasmine, you got a little bit of floral, and the air note, you expect it to be sort of very intensely bright, like say maybe a fresh bamboo, some of the eucalyptus scents that are kind of herbal or just really kind of watery or rainy. Usually that's where you get with the air notes. A little cottony, a little powdery. But this one, it has sort of that lightness to it, and certainly not as heavy as something like a fresh bamboo. But it also there was sort of a bass note in there that I'm not getting as much as before, but I definitely still feel it. And stick with me for a minute here because it sounds strange, but there was some sort of bass note that really reminded my nose of mahogany teakwood. Now, at the time when I smelled Refresh, it was after there was just Indian mahogany and teakwood or mahogany leather in some markets, and it wasn't very popular. It was from back in 2011 when it had come out, and it just seemed like there was some sort of like woody, like tonka bean-ish, sort of just kind of creamy bass note in the Refresh candle that I get in this one as well, that just seemed to somehow remind me of the mahogany teakwood. Not overall, the top notes not at all match with it, so they're not going to smell the same if you just sniff them, but there was something that reminded me in a really weird sort of depth way of the mahogany teakwood candle. And I'm still getting that. It's renew, refresh, but there's something in it. I don't get it as much as I used to just because I'm so used to mahogany teakwood now from the fall that when I try to think and look for it in the notes that I'm getting, I don't really pick it out the way that I used to, but I'm curious to see if anyone else can sort of find, just, in sniffing it and figuring things out, if they see any weird similarity to that. This is definitely not just a standard bright air scent. So it's very unique. It's got some floral to it with the jasmine, but jasmine is a pretty unassuming floral. It's not overly intense, and it can be very sweet, almost fruity in candles, in my opinion. So it really works. I don't really get any mint, which is fine. I don't know that I would like it with mint in it. So yeah, it's very nice. White Barn number 3, renew and refresh. And fourth, but last but not least, we've got Green Grass, which came out actually in 2010 as Green Daisy, They slightly, I think, revamped it for last year, for 2012 with the spring line as green grass, and then they brought it back for, the 2013, and it's just, you can see you're sort of looking out from a porch or a home onto a sort of green meadow there. The notes are, the vibrancy of spring's first grass is captured in this blend of fresh air, again, dewdrops, cucumber fizz, and new green shoots. Now, I love the notes on this. This is definitely the same formulation, for the most part, as last year's green grass, and I think it was more listed as a little bit more floral, last year with the notes, and this year they're definitely going for more green. The cucumber fizz, I think, is a really neat addition as a note. The new green shoots, so it's not what you'd expect necessarily with green grass. It's not, a day in August where you just cut the grass with that really intensely green, wet grass. This is more like the fresh, just growing grass on an early spring day, as they say, first grass. With the fresh air note, dewdrops, just kind of wet without being watery notes, not any blue notes, more just the light green notes. And it's the same green grass as last year. Now, when I smelled this yesterday for the first time, I thought I got a little bit more of a true grass note to it than I had in years past. Sort of less of the floral and more of the grassy kind of earthiness. I'm not getting that so much now. And I'm not one of those people who thinks that they sort of tweak scents from one year to the next. I generally feel like, with a few notable exceptions, I think that they pretty much stick to their scent formulations from one year to the next, even if a candle, doesn't come out for a year and comes back, a year or two later, with a slightly different name and, different notes listed on the bottom of the candle. I think they're pretty much the same scent. Based on maybe the wax formulation, they can smell different to you, or just based on, your sort of palate changing, I think that things can come off differently. But in this case, I feel like it's tricking me here. I can't really tell. It seems a little tiny bit greener, which makes sense, but I could just be trying to convince myself of that with these more, new green notes that they're giving us. So I'm also curious with this one to see if anyone else gets a little bit more of a true grass to it and less of a floral than last year's. But either way, it's a great scent. I'm happy to have it back. So again, just a quick overview here as I try to wrap this one up. We've got Lily Pond, Garden Freesia, Whiteboard number 3, Renew and Refresh, and Green Grass. Some of the other ones that will be in this, Pineapple Orchid, Honeysuckle, Spring, Lilac Blossom, really great scents. I'm super happy to see that Honeysuckle is back. It was one of my favorite test scents from a couple years ago, and then, the wide release last year. I think it's super, just a really great summer floral, not so much spring for me, whereas these four here can definitely be spring, and even early spring for the most part, whereas some of the other ones are a bit more summer for me. So again, if you have any questions about this or anything else, please let me know, and stay tuned for the third and final video of this review, which will include the 4 candles you see at the bottom there. So again, any questions, hit me up, and until next time, take care.